Hey guys, it's Alex again, coming at you with another video. Today I'm going to be cooking stewed cabbage, actually fried cabbage with bacon. And this is another of Dad's famous recipes. The kids love it, can't get enough of it, and I'm going to show you how to make it. So we're going to start with a skillet, stainless steel skillet. It doesn't have to be non-stick. In fact, I find it's better when it's not a non-stick skillet, and I'll tell you why. If it is not a non-stick skillet, you get a little bit more of the juices or flavoring from the bacon, and it's easier for the cabbage to then kind of collect those flavors off the bottom of the pan. So we're going to start with bacon. Doesn't really matter what kind. Hickory smoke gives it a little bit more flavor, but it's not a necessity. And so it's hard to find just the right amount of bacon, but what I usually do is a half a pack. And so I just kind of slit the top of it here. I'm going to slide out this insert, and the reason I do that is because I like to leave the other half of the bacon in the pack. So we're going to do just like that. Come over here, and I'm going to slice it straight down the middle, and that way I can later use this for breakfast or anything else that I want to use that for. But let's take a closer look in here. Sometimes you get some fat that doesn't really look that appetizing, so we're going to cut that off of the bacon there, just like that. Alright, now we're going to start just kind of slicing. I don't get too fancy with the slicing of the bacon. Really all you're looking for is kind of some, bite size type stuff. So we're going to come over here. I'm going to turn the eye on. Depending on what kind of cooktop you've got, I always go like the mid-grade. So this one goes up to 9 and then it goes to high. So I'm going to put it on 5. I don't know what temperature that is, probably 250 degrees, something like that. But we're basically just going to dice this bacon up. Like I said, you don't have to get too fancy with it because you're just wanting it to cook kind of quickly and for all of the fat to cook off of the bacon and for it to get really crispy. And then I'll show you what we're going to do with both parts of that. So I'm going to speed the video up right here and get all this sliced into the skillet. Okay, now it's time to start in with the cabbage and the onion. I just usually get a medium-sized white onion. And with the cabbage, you'll be surprised how much it makes once you start cutting it. And most of the time it's sold by the pound, so I just go with a smaller head of cabbage. Our bacon's sizzling. You're starting to get kind of the, you can smell this getting cooked there. So we're just going to start with hacking off the bottom of the cabbage because you don't want a real tough piece. You can rinse the cutting board. I don't, because all this is going to end up cooking at a high temperature anyways. And so it's not really a concern with contamination or that kind of thing. So I'm going to start with cutting down the head of lettuce into basically a wedge shape, and then we're going to start slicing it, just like it was an onion, or something like that. So really, what you're wanting with this is you want the layers to be able to kind of flake off in smaller pieces. And then I'm just going to cut it crossways like this, and that'll give us basically some leafy bite-sized pieces. I'm going to do this several times. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it in the pot right here. Now there's nothing in the pot yet, and the pot is not on. So this is basically just a holding container while I'm dicing. You can see the bacon there starting to sizzle again. I'm going to grab a spatula, and we're just going to kind of, rearrange the bacon. Unlike if you were to keep it in full slices, it's not going to lay down flat and be like this perfect, flat, crispy pieces. It's just kind of a jumbled up mess of bacon. It really doesn't matter. We're just doing it for the flavor, not for the looks. So I'm going to go ahead and hack off another wedge of our cabbage here. And again, I'm cutting it, I guess you would call it against the grain. Then I'm gonna spin it, or cut it again. That's getting it into those nice bite-sized pieces that we want. Going back into the container here. And I'm actually tempted, because you'll see when we start cooking this, it cooks down quite a bit and it's going to look smaller once it's fully cooked. So I'm going to go ahead and actually dice this whole head. Now, even though I've cut the bottom off, what you want to watch for, you don't want that kind of real tough core piece in there. So I kind of leave that little wedge. Otherwise, it almost tastes like a piece of wood even when it's cooked. So go ahead and dice this up. And again, we're slicing it several different ways against the grain. Even sometimes while I'm dicing, if I feel something like that feels like a pine cone basically, I'm gonna go ahead and pull that out of my mix. Okay. So that's going back into the cabbage. Now, depending on who you're cooking for, and you know, basically sort of their taste buds, if you will, for salt and pepper, you may or may not choose to do this. But what I like to do a lot of times is I'll add the black pepper in, which I'll show you here in just a moment, to the mix before it starts cooking. And the reason I do that is because it's sometimes hard to see the pepper once it's cooked and it has kind of a darker color to it. So I like to add the pepper when the ingredients are raw, so I can get a really good feel for how much I'm actually putting in there. And then the second reason is it just mixes it better because it's cooking with the black pepper. Now on the onion, I've got another recipe video I'm going to do later for something totally different. So I'm just using half of it, and nothing special on the onion. Again, we're just kind of cutting it against the grain. Spin it, and cut it the other way. Onions are usually pretty good about separating anyways, and so I just kind of leave them chunked up like that, and then as it's cooking and you stir it, those layers are going to separate. So we're going to add this in here to the cabbage. Again, there's nothing in the cabbage yet, so you know, I'm not worried about heat at this moment. I'm not worried about stirring. Right now, my main focus is getting this bacon to fully cook. All right, now let me show you what I'm gonna do with this pepper in the pot. So, because it's not cooked yet, you can see in there, it's pretty much white and green and leafy. So I've got a really good feel as I'm adding the pepper, how much is going in. So now you can see, it almost looks like it snowed black pepper in my pot. But now I don't have to guess if I put too much in there or just the right amount, because I can see it, and I like to cook by feel. All right, so you can see this bacon is getting pretty done. I mean, it would be, you know, edible right now in terms of being fully cooked, but what I want is that real crispy texture. And the reason why, you'll see at the end of the video, we're going to put it on top of the boiled cabbage and onions, and if it's not crispy, you don't have that contrast between textures, because your cabbage and onion is going to be a little bit chewy, a little gooey, but in a good way, and you don't want your bacon to be super like chewy flavoring, because it's not going to have that contrast. What you want with each bite of your cabbage and onion is you want that to have the savory chewiness, but you want the crunch and the flavor of the bacon to come through. So to get that flavor profile right, you got to make sure that it is crispy. So we're going to let this keep cooking for a while until we get that crispy flavor that we're looking for. Be right back. All right, so now you can see the bacon has got this like golden brown tan looking color to it. Obviously it's fully cooked. We're going to put it onto this plate here with a napkin, and that just kind of helps take some of the excess grease off of it, even though we're going to use all of the grease for the flavor. So I'm basically just straining this with a spatula to let the grease fall through. All right, now we're going to come over here, and without doing anything to it, we're just going to add that in here with our cabbage, all that grease, just like that. Now, you don't have to do this, but I like to get all the flavor out of the bottom of the skillet. And to do that, I'm just going to take like 3 or 4 minutes here, leave it on medium heat, and I'm going to add some of this mix to it and let it cook down. And what that's going to do, that's going to allow all the flavors that are kind of stuck to the bottom of the skillet to basically cook off there with the ingredients. So, be right back. Okay, so I've had this on a little bit higher heat to get all that stuff off the bottom of the skillet. I'm now adding it back into the pot here. And then, pro tip to save energy, I'm just going to slide my pot over to the same eye that I had cooked the bacon on, and we're going to turn it up because I want to get it up to a certain temperature to where, not boiling obviously, because this is more of like a simmer or a saute, but you do want the heat to kind of soak into the ingredients, then bring it back down to a simmer. Now it's got the bacon grease in there, and one other thing that I'm going to add is just a touch of water. Most recipes you find will not say to add water, and I'm not going to add a lot. I'm probably adding a couple tablespoons. But the reason I do that is because although there's water in the cabbage, you don't really have control over like the moisture content of the onion or the cabbage. Some can be drier than others, and what I do want is for there to be enough moisture in the pot that once it comes up to temperature, that it has that steaming effect, and that steamy atmosphere inside the pot is what's going to make your vegetables have a good texture, a good flavor profile. So I can hear it sizzling. I've got it on 6.5. I'm now going to turn it down to 3.5, and we're going to add the lid. Of course, the lid is basically turning it from a frying pan to a convection type cooking environment where that steam is going to start rolling around in there, penetrating down into the cabbage, and that's what's going to give it the good texture that we're looking for. Be right back. Alright, so the cabbage has been sauteing on heat level 3.5 for about 15 minutes now. I would say it's probably 10 minutes away from done. So we're gonna let that keep simmering. All right, back. Okay, so now we're back on the cabbage. I'm going ahead and turning the oven off, but I'm gonna leave the heat on. The skillet we used earlier to cook the bacon, we're gonna go ahead and put that right here and use it as basically a serving dish for the cabbage. We're putting it back into the skillet. Just like that. Now this is where that bacon comes in that we drained earlier, and you can see now we've got kind of that sauteed, you know, chewy consistency of the onions and the cabbage and the crispy bacon on top. Look at that. That's going to be delicious. All right, so the cabbage and the onions cooled down just a little bit. We got some crispy bacon on top. That's good. I'm telling you, you could be in downtown New York City and taste that and you'd feel like you were in Alabama or Tennessee. That's a really good dish. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next video.